This is the Hidden Killers podcast with Tony Brueski.
Featuring former FBI Special Agent and Chief of the Counterintelligence Behavioral Analysis Program, Dreeke.
When a loved one passes, well, there's usually a funeral, there's a burial, a cremation. You usually trust those at that very vulnerable point in your life to do the right thing, to take care of what you're hiring them to do, to help you move through that difficult point in life. That's not what the funeral home in Colorado did. The Colorado funeral home returned to nature, lined their walls with 190 bodies. Yeah, and then gave the families urns with quickrete. They'll never know, right? How on earth they thought they would pull this off is a whole other question. Here to help break this down and analyze it, Dreeke, retired FBI special agent. When you look at this one and you try to analyze the behavior in this, where do you even start?
It makes you speechless, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does.
But it fits a pattern of shysters and con artists. You know, we see it a lot in society, and I've seen it in the cases I've worked, a lot of espionage cases I've worked, and a lot of the true crime we see out there with serial killers or anything. People that have basically a deep lack of empathy and edging up high in psychopathy, because that means that you'll take advantage of others, and you see the world around you as pure prey for the thrill and excitement that you get out of it, as well as self-gain and profit in some way. Matter of fact, a lot of psychopaths, they might build. I've worked cases where people have built others out of hundreds of millions of dollars, but lived austere with very little material goods because they just did it for the thrill of it. Don't know what the motivations here were, but having a husband-wife partner do this, it's interesting. But again, all we're seeing is total lack of humanity and empathy for what they're doing. Total self-gain. Total narcissism going on here. So
I guess the question is, what are they gaining? I mean, I know you're gaining money by telling people that we're going to cremate your loved ones and they give you quickrete, but at the end of the day, it's not sustainable. You can't sustain 190 bodies in a building. And the argument that one of the owners made was, I'm doing what word am I looking for? I'm missing a word in my mind at this second. It's been a long day. Taxidermy. Taxidermy is the word I'm looking
taxidermy.
for.
That's right. That's what the smell is.
He was saying the smell is from taxidermy. I don't even know how you enter a building with 190 bodies rotting away in it. It's a relatively small building, too. I would think that would almost be toxic and deadly in itself. But beyond that, you can't sustain it. What is the thought process here? Eventually, you're just going to run away with the money and the bodies are just going to rot and the company goes away? Or is there something darker going on here? There's a lot of industries that deal in human corpses.
Anytime someone says, I wonder what was going on here, you can't figure it out, it means that we're thinking too hard about it, potentially. Yeah. I don't think they're thinking about it at all. I think we're going to find in this case that there's a lot of other things that are going wrong with them, whether it's some sort of drugs or something else going on, because they weren't, like you said, they weren't thinking at all. They didn't play that. You know, some of our deepest horrendous serial killers out there did a phenomenal job of playing things forward, how to do things and plan things out, not just today, tomorrow, and where to dump a body, but where to go back to look at it again. I mean, they are really thoughtful. I mean, you look at the Ted Bundys of the world, you know, they can really play these things forward successfully for their own horribleness, right? This couple, nope. They had no plan whatsoever. So it kind of, to me, it's indicative of a real mental lapse going on that's caused by something.
Yeah. It's one of those cases where you almost hope the words drugs were involved at the end of the story.
Had to be.
Because without it, that's even scarier, that this is just their natural way of doing business.
So when human beings hit a high level of their inability and stop problem solving, that's when something's inhibiting their problem solving. Mm-hmm. And right now, you know, in this case, they knew they had a problem.
Yeah.
if they're in their right mind. So it means that they weren't in their right mind. That's the only thing you can kind of conclude on that one.
We'll have to see where this all ends. I just wonder if this is going to spider out into something else of, I don't know, body harvesting, organ harvesting. I mean, there's some dark roads.
There's more here.
Yeah.
There's more here. You don't know what it is, but again, people don't go from 0 to 100. I mean, here's not a couple that got together and said, all right, let's open up a funeral place and let's just pretend to cremate bodies. And we'll make our money for life doing that. This was an escalation and a journey and a path and an arc that brought him to this point. It'd be really interesting that what got him to this point. We're like, where did the idea even come from for this? How'd they get licensed? I mean, all these things are going to come out, I think, in the investigation, because you can't just open up a crematorium.
No.
There's licensing, there's certifications, there's schooling, all these things need to be involved. And I'd be really interested to see that arc and path about how that all happened, got them to this point. And they're all in their original motivation to do that all those years ago, because it's not just something to do overnight. Yeah.
If anything, Colorado needs to take a little bit stricter look at their certification for this industry, because if this is going on at one place, like you said in other stories, there's 10 more out there too.
It will be interesting because, like, I grew up in my hometown. One of the kids I went to school with, his parents were morticians. I mean, in the schooling you go through to become a mortician, run a funeral home, and do these types of services, it's long. You know, it's also, they do a lot of interviewing of them too, with psychological interviews to make sure the reason behind it, because you deal with really traumatic things and families and things like that. So it's generally a very well-regulated industry, at least from my optic that I had on it. That's why this one kind of struck me as like, what was going sideways here, and when did it go sideways? Because it's so regulated, at least I grew up in New York, at least in that state, I'd be really, like you said, be really curious about what did the state miss? What did the county miss? What did people miss along the way that allowed this to get as bad as it got?
Want to listen ad-free? Want advanced access to all of our interviews before anyone else?
Become a True Crime Today Premium Plus subscriber on Apple Podcasts.
You get every episode commercial-free,
so you can binge on true crime
until you can binge no more.
Search True Crime Today Premium Plus on Apple Podcasts now, or go to our podcast page and sign up now.
More of the Hidden Killers podcast next.